All right, it's time for the end of the year book tag, which, to be quite honest, isn't necessarily my favorite tag to do, but everyone does it and then I get FOMO, so I do it. It's just like I never feel like I have interesting answers for some of these questions because of the type of reader I am, or because when I choose to film it, some combination. But it's a pretty fun tag, and I get to talk about books I like, so, let's get into it. Starting with the first question, which asks, essentially, are there any books you started that you need to finish by the end of the year? And the answer is no, because it's my reading life, my channel, my rules. I do what I want. But I guess a book that I think that I've started, that I for sure will finish by the end of the year, is Terraform. This is an anthology I started, short story anthology, so I never read those super fast. It's not like when I read a typical, this is a 500-page book. Typically, if I read a 500-page book, I'm like, that'll take me 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, depending on how gripping the book is, what else I'm balancing. For this, it's like, we're reading a story a day in my buddy read, and there are so many stories, so many stories. So I don't know how many days that's going to take us. That might take us 30 days, 40 days, I don't know. But that should be finished by the end of the year. I did talk about I think it was my August wrap-up, I had a lot of things that I DNF'd and paused. And so I had paused 2 books. Will I finish either of those up by the end of the year? No. One of them's The Stardust Thief, and I think I've just decided the second book's going to be out in the next 6 to 8 months. I'm going to read it closer to the second book coming out. That's my decision there. And then I have officially decided to DNF The Taste of Iron, Golden Iron, I think is the name. Just because I just don't think it's for me. I don't think it's a bad book. I don't think it's poorly crafted. I just think it's one of those things where when I'm reading a romance book of any subgenre, if I'm not connected to the characters or the character interaction, then I'm not getting what I want from that entertainment experience. So I think I'm definitely DNFing that. But otherwise, I don't normally keep things on pause because it, I think, makes me anxious. Another book I had started at the beginning of the year and I haven't talked about on the channel because I thought I was going to finish it and I never did, and that's Reclaim the Stars. This is edited by Zoraida Cordova, and this is a YA short story anthology of sci-fi and fantasy stories by Latinx authors, and I just wasn't really liking them. It truly felt like a bunch of long-form writers writing short stories, and it wasn't my type of thing. Short stories, it's not the same as just taking a story and shortening it. That's not how short stories work. At least in my experience, the short stories I like are meant to be the short story length. They're not a longer story that is truncated down most of the time, if that makes sense. And I was definitely getting that vibe from a lot of those stories. They weren't bad, but they weren't particularly memorable, and I had no urgency to keep going. So that was another book that was I paused it, but I've truly never finished it, so it's gone. So this is why I'm bad at this question, honestly. But number 2, and again, another reason why this tag's not my thing, is what's a autumnal read you've read or have on deck for getting to the year. And it's I've been reading autumnal stuff since September, and right now we're in middle of October, so anything I read in my September wrap-up would count. In particular, I read Mongrels, I read The Icarus Girl. Both of those were very spooky to me. Right now, purposefully, I chose to read The Hacienda in October, both for a buddy read for my patrons, but also I wanted a spooky house story. But also in August, I read 2 spooky stories, and that was really fun too. So maybe even in August, I was reading what I consider autumnal. So I don't know. I read seasonally, but not hard and fast. So for example, I'm also reading The Golden Fool right now. I consider Robin Hobb to be very autumnal, classic fantasy. The way the Six Duchies feels is very fall to me. So those are some brief answers, but I do have some recommendation videos for books that I consider autumnal. I've got a dark fairy tale recommendation video. I've got a spooky haunting horror book recommendation video, and then I always find that a lot of the Latinx books that I read happen to be autumnal, so I have 2 videos of that, and a lot of those have authors that I would definitely recommend for this time of year. So if you're looking for recommendations from this question, that's what I have, but otherwise, for me, myself, as a reader, I am living my best spooky life. I definitely have autumnally set up my living room. That's been fun. And now into another question that I think, if you know me, is not surprising, but we'll talk about it anyways. These are new releases you're still looking forward to. And November is the month of new releases if you're a fantasy reader. That's just how it works. It might be for other genres too, but let's be honest, I only really know about my genre in terms of this. And like, for as long as I can remember, I've gotten a Sanderson book in November. And that is no different this year. And this year, it's The Lost Metal, and I am incredibly excited. Currently reading The Bands of Mourning and loving it. And I just can't wait. Like, truly, cannot wait to get to The Lost Metal, finish off this arc, see what, as Alan would say, the implications are for the Cosmere. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that. Also really excited for the new Jemison book, because I haven't had a new Jemison since 2020. And so that is, I think, The Worlds We Make. So really excited for that. It's the second book, the final book in the Cities Born Great duology. I will read anything Jemison writes, and I have run out of prose work by Jemison to read, so desperately wanting this. I don't know if there are any other new releases that are really on my radar that I'm truly very excited for, but those are my big hitters. The next question is 3 books you need to read by the end of the year. I'm going to put out 1 book that's a patron buddy read, and then 2 other sci-fi books I would really like to get to, but also, if you don't know, I have a series wrap-up and TBR video. And in that video, I always talk about my plans for the next season, so my fall series TBR is in there, so presumably I would like to get to all of those. But 3 books we'll talk about is Symbiosis. This is our buddy read for November. This looks creepy and cool. This is different types of alien life. I really don't know what the plot is, but I've been intrigued by this book for a really long time. It's been like up there with like Children of Time in terms of like weird alien sci-fi stuff that I want to read. And I almost read it right by like at the time that I'd read Children of Time, but I thought it was like a little too similar and I wanted some distance, and now I've had a lot of distance. So excited to buddy read this with a bunch of people and see what we take from it. I think it might be the start of a duology, but I'm unsure. I also want to read Misery of Genesis. Is that what it's called? I have the book over here. The Genesis of Misery. Flip the words around. Just because, I bought it. And I like to try, keyword being try, to read things that I buy within a reasonable time frame. We'll see. But I want to read this. I think maybe buddy read it with my friend Jocelyn in the nearest future. I know it's a light, loose Joan of Arc retelling. I don't even know that much about Joan of Arc anyways, but I guess this main character, they hear voices from this angel and they think they're hallucinating and they have to save the day. And it has a nested narrative quality because I read the beginning part, and I think it's these 2 supernatural creatures talking to each other about this person, and then it's like the story of the legend of them. And I'm just like, ooh. I thought originally this was a standalone, but I think it's the start of a series, but that's not the end of the world either. And then the other one I think I have it next to me. Yes! August Kitko and the Mechas from Space. I picked this one up recently too. It seems like a rompy space time, and I like that. This is also the start of a series, yes. The Star Metal Symphony. This is music, sci-fi, and mechas, which seems like all my buzzwords. So I think those 3, in terms of like sci-fi space would be cool. This next question, we're going to switch it to a really quick mini 5-star prediction tag, because I don't know any books that would shock me by the end of the year. That's literally any book at any given time. I actually don't make 5-star prediction videos for this reason, because then I feel like I am setting myself up to fail. I think I go into a book expecting a 4-star experience, and then it waffles up or down from there. I know some people go in with a 3-star mindset. I go in with a 4-star mindset, and then it can go up or down. And so what we've got are the 2 I've already mentioned. World We Make Great, Lost Metal. I do think I will love these 2. They are my favorite authors. Another favorite author who I'm hoping to read a book from by the end of the year is Unraveling by Karen Lord. It'll be fine if I don't love it as much as Redemption in Indigo or Best of All Possible Worlds, but I'm expecting to have a wonderful time back in her prose again. And then Wall of Storm by Ken Liu. I don't think I've had 5-star experiences with him since his short stories, but this is the book that everyone's like, oh my god, Wall of Storms. And I do really like epic fantasy stuff. I really did enjoy Grace of Kings. I have a review for that if you want more of my thoughts. So there you go. Mini 5-star prediction of things that I think I'm getting to by the end of the year that could be new favorites. I don't know if it's necessarily surprising, but And now, the last question is, do you have any reading plans for the next year? And the answer to that is yes and no. I do plan my reading. I have TBRs. I generally keep to them, but I don't typically plan more than a month or 2 ahead at a time, except for at the start of the new year, I typically do, X books I want to read in the year, because I think that's fun to because I don't own a physical TBR, to like have a TBR list to pick from for readathons or any challenges. I always do the Reddit bingo challenge, and that usually gets released in April, so I'll pick things for that. So I'm going to keep doing that because I think that's fun. Like as I said earlier, I always do my series TBR videos, so I think I'm going to continue with that. 2 things I might add, because especially as I reevaluate my goals for the coming year, see what's worked, what hasn't worked, how I want to pivot, is I want to read more globally, especially in speculative fiction space, especially translated speculative fiction. I'm doing okay this year, but not amazing, so I want to have a more intentional plan. And I think that'd be really fun to just try and read works from other countries and translate it. It's going to be hard, just because they're not widely translated. But I think that'd be a fun project. Maybe I'll pick a particular continent or a group of countries out of a hat or something. I haven't figured it out, but that's like an idea. It's in my head. And then if I look to my right, yes, here they are, all of these. So my friend Evie, if you saw my surprise book haul earlier this year, sent me all of these Louise Erdrich books. This doesn't even include the other 2 she sent me that I have up here because they're with my my copy of La Rose. Or maybe it's La Rose. I don't know how to say it. But I have all of these. I think I have almost every Louise Erdrich book now. So I should do something with that. I do love them. They're one of my favorite contemporary literary authors. So I don't know if I want to start in publication order or what I'm going to do with that. If I'm going to open it up for a read-along casually for people in my Discord. Haven't decided, but maybe something with that huge stack of books is going to happen. And then also, I just want to really focus on short story anthologies and magazines. I feel like last year I took a break from short stories, and this year I've been falling back in love with them again. And I want to make sure I'm pulling from a lot of unique spaces, especially because a lot of lesser-known publishers and imprints are really pushing some amazing works and stories. And since I'm trying to become more active in nominating and voting for the Hugos and things like that, I kind of want to make sure I'm doing that. But I don't know what that's going to look like either. So, like I said, yes, I'm making plans, but there's been nothing very structured done at the moment. And it's like, obviously the year of Sanderson's happening, so I have at least 4 Sanderson books next year, so that's part of the plan. But yeah, if you've done this tag, let me know, and I can go and check it out. I do like watching other people's videos. I think that's the thing about this tag. It's a tag I like to watch, but I feel like when I make it, it's like not that interesting. Feel free to tell me I'm wrong, but it's like, I don't know, I feel like if people watch my channel, they already know all of this. This feels redundant, but here I am, making the tag. If you want to leave an emoji, I don't know, what have we talked about consistently in this channel? I don't know, a lot of space-related things, right? Like Cosmere, space opera, so maybe like a galaxy emoji would be good. Let's do that. Or if you want to leave an autumnal emoji, since there was that question. I'll take either if you just don't have anything else to say. What are your reading plans potentially for the next year, if you have them? I know a lot of people are mood readers, and the idea of even planning a monthly TBR seems absurd, so I totally get it if you don't have reading plans. Like I said, I barely have reading plans. I haven't gone through my collection of want-to-read books to figure out which ones I'm going to put on my, priority for the next year and stuff like that. But that's it for this video. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.